Some international news now. The Israel-Hamas war in Gaza has completed 6 months. According to the reports, no progress has been made in the latest round of ceasefire talks. On the other hand, some reports suggest that there could be temporary ceasefire within a few days. This as the condition of the civilians in the enclave remains tragic, with the UN saying more than half of its population is on the brink of famine. My colleague Vivek Vishal with this report.
This man and his daughter start their day in northern Gaza by collecting mallow leaves. The leaves are used to cook a soup that the family consumes to break their fast during Ramzan. For most Gazans, it's either that or looking up to the sky in search of food packages being airdropped. 6 months into the Israel-Hamas war, the catastrophe seems to be getting worse by the day. As more than half the population of Gaza is on the brink of a famine, the entire population is experiencing acute food insecurity and malnutrition, according to a report of the World Bank and the UN. Northern Gaza is the epicenter of the enclave's humanitarian catastrophe, with many residents forced to eating animal feed. According to reports, the cost of damage to infrastructure in the enclave is about $18.5 billion. So far, 26 million tons of debris and rubble have been left in the wake of the destruction. Amid all the death and destruction, there seems to be some hope, as reports emerged on Sunday that the Israeli military has withdrawn all ground troops from the southern Gaza Strip except for one brigade. It can be recalled that Israel had been planning a ground offensive in the southern Gaza region of Rafah, which is a refuge to more than 1 million displaced Gazans. Reports are also saying that a temporary ceasefire could be announced within a few days. The war has killed nearly 33,000 people and displaced the majority of Gaza's population. With permanent ceasefire deal far from being agreed upon by Israel and Hamas, no one seems to know when the war would come to an end. With Vishal Vivek, NDTV Bureau Report.
Now, according to reports, senior United States and Israeli officials believe that an attack by Iran is inevitable. According to this report, it is likely to be a revenge for the attack on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, in which a senior Iranian Republic Guard commander was killed. Here's a report by my colleague Disha.
Days after Israel attacked an Iranian consulate building in Damascus, Syria, reports indicate an Iranian retaliatory strike is imminent, with both the US and Israel on high alert as the Israel-Hamas war enters its 7th month. According to Israeli intelligence, while the timing and target of this imminent attack is unknown, it is likely to be a proportional response targeting an Israeli diplomatic facility. It is also unclear if the strike will come from Tehran or Iran would use its proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Houthis in Syria, for this attack. Washington is actively preparing for this attack, which it calls significant and inevitable. The expected retaliatory strike was also a major topic of discussion during a call between US President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier this week. An Iranian attack further signals a spread of the Israel-Hamas war in the Middle East, 6 months since the conflict in the region first began. Meanwhile, Iran has warned the US to step aside as tensions between Tehran and Tel Aviv continue to rise. In a written message to Washington, Iran warned the US not to get dragged into Netanyahu's trap, with Mohammad Jamshidi, the Iranian president's deputy chief of staff for political affairs, saying, "Stay away so you won't get hurt." While on X he further added that in response, the US attack asked Iran not to target American facilities. Washington has not officially responded to Iran's statement. This escalation comes after Israeli war jets attacked an Iranian consulate building in Syria, killing at least 7 Iranians, including a senior leader of the Iranian elite force. After the strike, Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, promised Israel will be punished for this strike. Furthermore, senior Iranian officials said that none of Israel's embassies was safe anymore. Interestingly, Washington was quick to inform Iran that the Biden administration was not involved and had no advance knowledge of the strike in Syria earlier this week, and has warned Iran against coming after American assets. Despite Iran's warnings, Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant has said that the country was ready to handle any scenario after holding an operational situation assessment meeting with senior Israeli military officers. Only time will tell where this escalation is headed.
Now, as the war in Gaza enters its 7th month, 33,000 people have been killed in the enclave. Currently, there is no end in sight. We have with us a guy as well, journalist, I-24 News, to discuss the future of Israel's operations in Gaza and what the imminent retaliatory strike from Iran could mean for the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Thank you for joining us here on NDTV. Let me begin by asking you, if it has been 6 months since the war in Gaza began, does Israel have an exit strategy? Is there an end in sight?
Yes, more specifically about that exit strategy. Obviously, Israel does not want to find itself in a situation in which it is permanently controlling over 2 million Palestinians living in Gaza on a daily basis. However, Israel made it very clear, the Israeli government made it very clear that Israel will be responsible in terms of security for that area. Israel will no longer allow a situation in which the Gaza Strip is completely ruled by a terror group like Hamas that enables itself to arm itself, to pose a threat on the lives of Israelis on the border, would not allow another October 7th. In order to change that reality, once that war is over, Israel is looking to find Palestinians who are not associated with Hamas to rule Gaza when it comes to civilian matters like taxes, distributing food, education, etc., but maintaining Israeli security control. The Israeli military presence will remain, according to the Israeli government, obviously something Hamas will not agree to, and this is why Israel does not want to see Hamas in power in Gaza at all, not militarily nor in any civilian manner. And that would be extremely complicated, of course, when it searches for civilian bodies to control the Gaza Strip. They would be under the threat of Hamas, who vows to avenge anyone who cooperates with the Israelis. Obviously a very tough task at hand, not just for Israel, but also for so many other international bodies, including the Americans and other countries in the region, looking to find a solution for Gaza the day after the war.
You know, many analysts across the globe are seeing the attack on the Iranian embassy in Syria as an attempt that could possibly widen the conflict. Now that Iran has vowed a response, how is Israel preparing for that?
Yes, so that strike in Damascus attributed to Israel. Israel, of course, has yet to confess to be behind that strike, killing a senior commander of Iranian Quds Force, was received with threats of revenge from Iran, keeping many Israelis, both the security system, but also, I can say, as someone who lives here in Israel, many Israeli civilians on their toes in fear, anticipation of what that Iranian revenge may look like, with all sorts of speculations from the use of Iranian proxies on Israel's borders, including drones, to the launch of missiles from Iran directly towards Israel in what would be considered another escalation in the wide conflict between these two countries for several years now, that proxy war that could develop into a direct conflict. Israel on its side understands very well that Iran is well behind most or many of the violent attacks on Israel, from helping Hamas plan the attacks of October 7th to the violent attacks of Hezbollah.
All right, thank you, Guy, for joining us with your inputs on this ongoing conflict. With that, it's a wrap on this bulletin. News and updates continue on NDTV. Stay tuned.